the April 8th solar eclipse up on us in just a few days. We're going to check that out shortly, but let's take a look at the weather around the world. The planet's hot spot, 116 degrees in Oman on the Saudi Peninsula. Also a heat wave in progress in southeastern Asia. Myanmar recorded 114 degrees, and a heat wave continues in western and central Africa, 110 to 112, quite common through that stretch. A lot of cold weather showing up in Antarctica down to minus 96 as they transition into winter. But as far as the civilized world, minus 34 degrees at Rhea Point on Melville Island in northern Canada. Some of that cold air making its way into the Great Lakes and Midwest. And there's the weather map this evening. We can see that big polar ridge extending through Lake Superior into Illinois. On the east side, cold advection into the northeastern U.S., snow showers from Quebec down to New York, and a few more areas of snow into West Virginia. Strong cold advection all the way into Virginia, North Carolina, and we do have frost advisories and freeze warnings through a huge chunk of the Midwest and the Carolinas as well. Temperatures could be into the 20s in some of those areas. In the Great Plains, deep southerly flow, all the way from Texas and northern Mexico to Saskatchewan. So that's a vast area of warm advection flowing northward ahead of this Pacific weather system, moving through the Continental Divide region, the Four Corners, and southeastern Arizona. Cold advection following in the wake of that, snow showers from Idaho down to the high country of Arizona, and an area of unsettled weather in Nevada and California, with that occlusion trailing behind the Pacific weather system. To understand the weather patterns across the continent, we go up to 500 millibars, and we've got a meridional pattern. A lot of flow going north and south. For example, deep southerly flow from Arizona all the way to the Northwest Territories. So this is a vast exchange of cold air with warm air at different latitudes. Lots of air moving out of their source regions. And of course, that is a thermally unstable sequence of events. We get baroclinic weather development, the development of large weather systems like what we have there in the Continental Divide region. And you're probably well aware when we have a zonal weather pattern flow going pretty much west to east, we don't see very much weather. That tends to be quiet, so we're kind of at the opposite end of that pattern. A couple of large vortices, one across New Brunswick, the other across the Great Basin region. And those are associated with cold air masses. And we've got ridging across the Great Plains, that's associated with warm air. A couple of other ridges also associated with warm air across the eastern Pacific. And of course, in between, that's where we get frontal weather systems and strong development of surface lows. We go up to 300 millibars to take a look at the jet stream. And we're starting to get to that point in the season where we need to go up to 250 millibars, or about 34,000 feet. This chart is at 30,000 feet. So the troposphere is getting deeper as we shift into a warm season pattern. And as we get into May and June, we need to start looking at 200 millibars. So let's take a look at what we have right now. 130 knot flow across Arizona. You can see the subtropical jet coming out of Baja California into Texas, and the polar front jet through California into Idaho. So where they converge like this, that's an area of enhanced flow. That's coupling of those jets, and that's where we get that 130 knot flow. Another branch of the polar front jet across the Great Lakes region into the Carolinas, coupling once again with the subtropical jets. So that right there, that's where they come together, and we get that 120 knot flow out there in the Atlantic. And there you go. This area is convectively unstable. Lots of cold air in the mid and upper levels. You probably remember from introductory textbooks how cold over warm is statically unstable. And that's what's happening here. Enough moisture and lift Even got those orographics there. That's providing the lift for snow showers and rain showers, and even a few, maybe cumulonimbus. Not 100% sure, but looks like some pretty good shallow anvils right there across Pennsylvania. So you could get some locally heavy snow and rain showers within that. And here's what we're talking about. This chart is kind of hard to find on the internet because this has temperature, and typically they only show temperature at the surface, 850 and 700. 500 millibars, they usually switch over to vorticity. So here I've got the temperature, and you can see the cold readings across the northeastern U.S., minus 22 to minus 26. So if it's 40 or 50 degrees at the surface, you get a steep lapse rate, you get a skew-t plot that's bent over with height to the left, and that means you've got an unstable profile. So right here, lots of cold air aloft, helping to support those convective showers. In the southeastern U.S., fair skies, but cold air advection flowing all the way through Georgia and the Carolinas. Looks like some of those clouds getting banked up against the Appalachians, the Blue Ridge Mountains, and the Great Smoky Mountains. Looks like a few fires have broken out as well across Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. You can see those plumes right there streaming off towards the southeast. As we move west, we get closer to that baroclinic weather system in the Rockies. Cirrus coming out of northern Mexico and New Mexico. This is some of that upper level lift associated with the jet stream in between that ridge and that very deep trough across the Great Basin region. If we refer back to that surface chart, we've got that cold front currently from Grand Junction down to about San Simon, Arizona, and Douglas. Cold advection in the wake of that, quite strong, and out ahead of it, warmer air and flow out of the south-southwest. And the surface chart looking like this, and this is a 4 p.m. map. So the graphic that I showed you, the surface analysis, that's actually based on 7 p.m. data, so probably by this evening, the cold front will have advanced into eastern Arizona and into a bit of New Mexico as well. But you can see the cooler air off to the west. 60s in Phoenix, mid-60s compared with 70s out to the east. And as you go further to the west, 58 degrees there at Los Angeles and 55 at Las Vegas. Rather cool temperatures for this time of year. Tonopah 32 with snow, and that is pretty rare in April. All right, so rather than show the surface analysis for this area, I'm going to show you the forecast going into Saturday and Sunday. We do have a high wind warning across much of the high plains, Denver under that as well for Saturday and Sunday. They're expecting northwest winds, 40 miles an hour, gusting to 65. So, yeah, you better be ready if you're flying into Denver this weekend. All of the high plains, Colorado, the San Luis Valley, under a high wind warning and winter weather advisories as you go north of Denver. We could have snow spilling out into the plains for later Saturday. Let me show you that. This is the overnight hours. You can see that cold air advancing into New Mexico overnight and reaching Texas by early tomorrow. The snow starting up on the Front Range, and as we go into the later part of tomorrow, snow from Cheyenne down to Lyman. And it will get worse as we go into the evening. There it is, corridor of snow down through Cheyenne and getting stronger out there in the panhandles. There could be near blizzard conditions out around Scottsbluff and Akron. Surface low pulling eastward into northern Nebraska, and the cold front kind of getting hung up there in Texas and Oklahoma, and it'll gradually die off going into Monday. So there we go, the rain showers heading eastward, and then we see the vast moisture return set up for Monday. Lots of moisture offshore, 1.5-inch precipitable water. And then we get up to the day of the eclipse. That's going to be at the time of the eclipse. I probably could have plotted the track on here, but that's going to run about like this right here. So there you go. You can see clouds are going to be a problem in Texas. The Fort Worth Forecast Office, they've been going with partly sunny for the eclipse for a few days. I'm not sure if they're going to change that because the models have gone more and more pessimistic with those clouds. Very strong moisture return, 1.5 to 2 inch precipitable water amounts on the coast. The addition of shear from the polar front jet starting to overrun this area. A little bit of isentropic lift as well. So a lot of conditions here on Monday, which will support low cloud. So we'll just kind of have to play this by ear, monitor the forecast, but not looking good in the southern part of the country. Better prospects in Indiana and Ohio, and from northern New York up to Maine. Those are going to be the best areas for viewing the eclipse. And here you go. Here's an animation starting at 7 a.m. Clouds already building into Texas. The red, that's going to be the low cloud associated with the warm air advection off of the coast. The green and blue, that's going to be mid and high cloud associated with the atmospheric river coming in from the Pacific and Mexico. So a couple different processes taking place. And also this Midwest and Northern Plains weather system, which has gone a little bit faster than forecast in the previous model runs and looks like to be positioned from the Appalachians across Pittsburgh up towards Lake Huron. And as we go into the morning and the midday period, you can see those clouds flooding in across Texas. Again, we're unsure if we're going to have breaks in that overcast, but clouds will very definitely be present in many areas. Better viewing conditions in Ohio and in Maine and New England. I guess Maine is New England. So anyway, there you go. And then 4 p.m. after the eclipse and 7 p.m. So I hope you found those charts useful. Let's continue through the remainder of next week. Weather system across Arkansas and Louisiana gradually coming together and organizing, so Tuesday will be worse. And this involves vast amounts of moisture. Again, 1.5 inch precipitable water building to 2 inches in southern Louisiana. So we could see an MCS coming together in the lower Mississippi River Valley for Wednesday. Yeah, there it is, midday, starting to march eastward. So we could see the addition of some severe weather. That's still a little bit uncertain, but it will have to be monitored because it is that time of the year. Thursday, wet in the southeastern U.S. as that weather system marches eastward. And then Friday, looking at bad weather in the East Coast area. More cold advection getting ready to filter down from central Canada. And it will be kind of a brisk, windy day in the eastern U.S. for Friday and Saturday. And as we get that strong downslope for next Saturday, warming conditions across much of the Great Plains. But another cold air mass sinking south into the Central Plains for the middle of April. And that will do it for this edition of Forecast Lab. I want to thank our newest Patreon supporters, Larkin Kinsella and Dana Durkee. Thank you very much for that support. And just to let you all know, we are going to start adding some live shows, probably on severe weather days. Haven't quite worked that out. I know some of you prefer the recorded shows because of the better quality, better information density, and the scheduling. Live shows, well, you kind of have to be ready for those. So we'll kind of work that out. And if you have any comments or suggestions about that, post in the comments and let me know. Okay, hope you have a great weekend and hope you have good luck with that eclipse. We'll be back after the eclipse, maybe sometime early Monday evening for the supporters, and on Wednesday for everybody else. Take care. Bye-bye.